Live Vedanta, a podcast about simple living and high thinking. If you haven't heard, this new year we've embarked on a series of live daily sessions with Vivekji, meaningful mornings and easy evenings, taking place at 7:45 a.m. and 7:45 p.m. They're streamed live on our Facebook page at facebook.com/cmniagara, and we would love for you to join us as we start and end each day with inspiration. Of course, there's a way to join in on Zoom too, and we actually recommend that for a more community feel. If you would like to join us on Zoom, email us at hello@chinmayaniagara.com and we'd be happy to connect you to the details. Okay, this week's episode. When a child is ready to learn, what should they be taught and who should teach them? What is the purpose of the upanayana samskara? Vivekji delves deep into the importance of the gurukula and the teacher in this episode of Significance of Our Samskaras.
A gentleman who worked for a company that transported frozen food from city to city had gotten onto a compartment in Madras. This is back in the day. And he went onto the compartment to check to see all the food that is to be transported is there, that everything's in order. So he's on the compartment, he's making his check marks, he's looking around. Everything is good, everything is there. So he goes to leave, and he goes to open the door, but it's stuck. So he's pulling on the door, it's not opening. He's kicking the door, he's banging on the door to get someone's attention, but the train had already started. And this is back in the day, so it's a steam engine train, so no one can hear him. So this train leaves Madras and arrives in Delhi. Now the company that's expecting that food, they show up, they open that compartment door, and this gentleman was curled up on the floor shaking. So they quickly called the ambulance, and they called the police as well because there's some sort of foul play that happened here. So the ambulance come and take this gentleman away. The police come and their fingerprints are being taken and they're checking all the systems. And one gentleman, one of the investigators, as he's checking the fridges, he turns around and says, "Stop the investigation." Everyone else is curious. Why? And the investigator says, this person was not freezing because of the temperature, because that day, those refrigerators were not working. It was the fear in his mind that he would freeze caused him to react in such a way. A more personal experience. The year that I left for the Vedanta course, I was playing in an outdoor soccer league. And I play sweeper, which is a defense position. And then there was a 50-50 ball. So their striker and me as a sweeper, we both have a 50% chance of getting to that ball. So we're both running full speed towards the ball. We both get to the ball. We both try to kick the ball as hard as we can. We both miss the ball. And we both end up kicking each other's feet. We're both right-footed, so it's direct contact. And the game continued. After the game, I got in a car, drove home, took a shower, and then I couldn't walk on that foot for 3 days. Because imagine someone kicking you as hard as they could in your foot with cleats on, with a soccer shoe. What happened? How was I able to play the game? How was I able to drive home? How come the pain was created post the shower? Where was the mind while the game was going on? Where was the mind post the game? And just today, and life is so great that I'll tell you why, and then I'll tell you why it's so great. I took a nap today from 3:41 to 4 o'clock. And I'm sleeping, and in my dream, I'm in this room, and I move this sewer cap. And when I move it, all of these bees start coming out. And I'm not scared of bees, I'm not allergic to bees. But I noticed my breathing started increasing in the real world. My breathing started increasing so much so that I woke up before the alarm clock. And I checked the clock and it was around 3:55 or something like that. And I was laughing to myself as I'm going to use this in my example today when I do the discourse about the power of the mind. That mind was in a completely different state with a completely different scenario, but here it is affecting my breathing while I'm in the waking state. So the question we have to ask ourselves, where is the mind? Like we watch those TV shows that say it's 11 o'clock, where are your children? Every second we should be asking ourselves, where is our mind? One more personal experience. I went to visit a lady I used to work with, just to say hello, see how life is with her. And when I went to meet her, she was asking me, so what are you doing with your life now? How are things? So I'm telling her I'm teaching a lot of classes, I'm traveling a lot. And she's an older lady. So as she's hearing all of this, she looks up at me and says, sounds like there's no time to get into any trouble. And she's absolutely right. If all of my time is spent in creating satsang for myself and for others, then how can there be dussanga then? Our samskaras are the same way. The vision of our rishis, and vision and rishis go hand in hand because the rishis are seers. The vision of our rishis was to make sure that every stage of our life, there is satsang that's infused into that stage of life. That way we stay out of trouble. Because we know if there's not satsang, the tendency is to drift into that dussanga. Our festivals are the same way. Recently, a gentleman had asked me, how can we celebrate so many Jayantis? Gandhi Jayanti, Vivekananda Jayanti, Chinmaya Jayanti. Why so many Jayantis? Soon every day is going to be a Jayanti. And he asked this in a complaining fashion. So when I answered his question through the Live Vedanta webcasts through Ustream, I said, every day, I look forward to every day that's a Jayanti. Because it's an opportunity for my mind that is here to go here. Every month in Sanatana Dharma, there is a festival. Whether it's Mahashivratri, Holi, Ramnavami, Hanuman Jayanti, Guru Purnima, Bhagwan Krishna Jayanti. Some Navratri we have twice. We celebrate Ganeshi's birthday twice. The idea is to raise that mind from where it is to that higher plane, that higher way of thinking. This is the glory of Sanatana Dharma, not the weakness. How many reasons there are to raise the mind? And each mentality is different. Holi is considered a tamasic utsava. Deepavali is a rajasic utsava. Mahashivratri is a sattvic utsava. Each personality is connected in a different way. That's fine. We should connect in the way that's meaningful to us and keep moving up from there. I've shared this many times, but I'm going to share it again, and every time I meet you, I'm going to share it. One of my batchmates had gone into his room while studying at Sandipani, and he had a big bucket of water in his room. And in Sandipani, we have showers. There's 2 bathing areas where there's buckets, showers, as one wishes. So I asked him, why do you have this bucket of water in your room? Showers are 10 feet away from you. So he's telling me that he finds it difficult to wake up in the morning. What time does the bell go off? At 4 a.m. Good. You know that because you're scared. So he's telling me that he's not afraid. He finds it difficult to wake up in the morning. So at 4 a.m., when that bell goes off, what he does is he rolls over and sticks his head in that water. And that's the way he gets up then. He needs that. He has a good understanding that when he wakes up, he's in a tamasic mood. And to get out of tamas, one doesn't go into sattva. One has to go through rajas, through activity. This is why Swami Vivekananda very thoughtfully said, arise, then awake. He never said awake and then arise. He said, get up, then you'll wake up. This is the idea. So for us too, our samskaras, our festivals are a way to raise the mind, and our rishis has given us a lot of opportunities to do so. In every significant stage of our life, from womb to tomb, we are taught, we are shown, we are told to remember the divine and the purpose of that stage. Why do we remember the divine? So we can invoke the divine. Today, a mother was asking me, because one of her children was asking, why do we have to learn Gita chanting? What is the point of Gita chanting? And I'm sure everyone in the front is saying that. And even those parents who have to teach the kids, they're saying the same thing. Why Gita chanting? There are many reasons why Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda, initiated Gita chanting, operating on many levels. Here are some of them. It's a form of concentration. It's a form of focusing. No different than a game of chess or Sudoku. It helps one channelize one's focus. It is a form of japa. Just like Vishnu Sahasranama, one has to keep on chanting, keep on thinking. Chanting Gita is the same way. It is a form of discipline. Like learning how to dance, learning how to play an instrument, learning how to chant Gita is a discipline too. And any discipline helps all facets of life. If I'm disciplined when it comes to sports, that also will mean I'm disciplined when it comes to my finances or this or that. Today we are talking about time management. The person who manages their time well is also able to manage their stress well, their money well, and relationships well too. It's the same type of discipline. And finally, and the most important reason why we chant Gita is so that when we mature, we'll ask, what am I chanting? And after I ask what I'm chanting, I'm going to study that. And after I study it, I will practice living it. So Gita chanting is a seed. And soon that seed will grow to me actually living Gita rather than just talking about it. So we remember the divine to invoke the divine. We remember the purpose of each significant stage of life because it becomes meaningful then. That's why. For those who are doing puja, when we know what each step means, it becomes more meaningful. When we watch a movie where we know what's going on, it becomes more meaningful. Those who have understood Inception, love it. Those who haven't understood Inception, hate it. Some know the meaning, some don't know the meaning. See the difference? So in each stage of life, we find out what the meaning is as well. We began with our prenatal samskaras. And there was 3 prenatal samskaras. The first was garbhadanam, which happens when the couple invokes the desire to have a child. So even before conception, that's when the samskaras begin. Then we shifted to pumsavana, which happens around the 3rd month when the food sheath and the air sheath are forming. Then we studied simantonayana, which happens around the 5th and 6th month. This is where the mental sheath and the intellectual sheath is coming together. The overarching message of the prenatal samskaras is the parents should be healthy. When the parents are healthy, the child will be healthy too. Simple message. Healthy at the physical level, at the mental level, at the intellectual level. Then we moved to the childhood samskaras, and the first was jata karma, which happens when birth takes place. And this is an hybrid samskara. It's partly prenatal, partly childhood, because the umbilical cord is still attached. Then we studied namakarna, which happens at the 11th day. I forgot to mention that yesterday. It happens at the 11th day. Namakarna I've spoken a lot about. I want to leave one more message about this. In Srimad Bhagavatam, in Tulsi Ramayana, it's shared that in Satya Yuga, the means to enlightenment is meditation. Minds were not distracted, so people could meditate, and they got enlightened. In Treta Yuga, when Lord Rama was existing, he's still existing, but formally, That's where yagas took place. Yajnas and yagas. Huge rituals. Lots of materials. That was the means to enlightenment during that period. Dwapar Yuga, when Lord Krishna existed, that's where pujas, where worship was the means to enlightenment. And in Kali Yuga, the age where you and I are now living, it is japa that is the means to enlightenment. Because our minds have become much more distracted than they were, so the intensity of the sadhana becomes less intense then. Which is a blessing, really. Because all I have to do is japa. Even to do puja, a lot of materials are required. A yaga requires so much material. I've met one person in my life who's been to a yaga before. Only one person. There's that much preparation that's required. Meditation, no comment is necessary. So we're blessed that in this cursed period, japa is the key that we all have, and we can all use this key whenever we want. This idea of japa should always be taking place. Even now, as I'm sharing these thoughts, japa should be going on. As you're hearing these thoughts, japa should be going on. In the background, constantly. One day, Narada Muni went to Bhagavan Narayana and was talking about how great of a devotee he is. Narada Muni sometimes does that. And Bhagavan Narayana, like a true teacher, ignored him. And like a true devotee, Narada Muni kept on talking about himself. So finally, Narayana said, let's see how great of a devotee you are. So he said, here's a pot of oil. I want you to walk around my palace without dropping a single drop of this oil. So Narada Muni says, let's do it. Game on. So he takes that pot of oil and he puts it on his head, and he step by step is going around Bhagavan Narayana's palace, and he comes back in, no oil is dropped. Now Bhagavan Narayana says, let's go look at this other devotee too. And it was a farmer. And this farmer, when he woke up, he would take the Lord's name. When he would eat, he would take the Lord's name. While he was working, occasionally, he would take the Lord's name. And then at the end of the day, Samarpayami. He offers everything to the Lord, goes to sleep. So he said Narayana 10 times. Then Bhagavan Narayana says, the difference between the farmer and you is that while you had that oil on your head, the whole time your mind was on that oil. Whereas this farmer, he was doing work too, but his mind was occasionally on me. That's what has to happen all the time for you and me. That japa must be going on. And let us not think this is possible. Let us not think this is impossible. I'll share two personal experiences of how taxi drivers taught me this lesson. When I fly to Buffalo, I live in Niagara Falls, Canada, and I drive an hour to Buffalo when I fly in the States, because it becomes a domestic flight, which is less expensive for who's inviting me, and it's simpler for me too. I take a car to one of our mission members' home, leave the car there, they take me to the airport. And the exact same happens when I come back. One day they weren't there, so I park my car at their house and call a cab. The cab comes, I sit in the cab, tell them, please take me to the Buffalo airport. It's a Crown Victoria, so the gear is up here. And as soon as he puts that car in gear, what does he do? Takes a japa mala off that gear shift and starts doing japa. So this gentleman has to drive all day. This is his profession. But he transformed that mundane activity of driving into something meaningful. So these stories we hear about Narayana and Narada, this actually happens. People actually do this. A cab driver. One more story related to that. I had arrived from Boston, and I got a cab from the airport to our mission member's home because they weren't there. Saturday night in October, I tell the gentleman, this is where I have to go. He tells me, I don't know where that is. So I'm tired at this point. Saturday night, I've been flying, I've been teaching. I tell him, if you can get me to this general area, I can get you into the neighborhood. So he says, we have a deal. Big, burly fellow. And as we're driving, then he looks back at me and he sees my tika. He goes, where are you coming from? I said, I'm coming from Boston. What were you doing there? I teach philosophy as a social service. That's what I have to tell people. I teach philosophy as a social service. I'm a volunteer. Philosophy? I have my own philosophy. Now he's got my attention too. Really? Please tell me what your philosophy is all about. So he says every morning when he wakes up, he talks to JC. Who's JC? Not Jay-Z. JC. JC is Jesus Christ. And he tells JC, please give me work. I need to support my family. I need to look after myself. And he gets up, he bathes, he eats. He starts driving. In between his shifts, then he continues talking to JC. He's telling him about the weather, he's talking about the Buffalo Bills, and he's just asking how he's doing. And at the end of the day, before he goes to sleep, he continues his dialogue with JC, saying, thank you for the opportunities you've given me to support me and my family. So we're about to approach this house that I'm supposed to get off at, and I'm thinking to myself about preconceived notions. Here I came in judging this burly cab driver, and he's teaching me the fundamentals of prayer. And as I'm about to get out, he tells me he has 9 kids. And every one of those kids is in college or has graduated. What an incredible story about japa, this is a form of japa, prayer, and about yoga and kshema. Lord Krishna says, if you choose me, I will look after your yoga and kshema. Yoga is what you need to procure, kshema is what you need to protect. This gentleman chose JC, so JC is looking after him. He doesn't have to worry then. Just like a child. If the mother is there, does a child worry then? No. Namakarana. Keep on taking that name. It is a means to enlightenment. Then we studied Nishkramana, and Nishkramana happens in the 3rd or 4th month, where the child is shown the sun and the moon for the first time, and then shown Bhagwan. This samskara teaches one about detachment. And this is a word we don't like to hear often. It's a word we like to practice even less. But today, when we talk about marriage, this is what our focus is going to be. In detachment, one learns how to truly give. If I know my wife is Mother Lakshmi, how will my relationship be with my wife? Will I hesitate to give her time or patience or love? I'll be detached and give her everything then, and vice versa. And when we give everything, what do we really give then? We give up our ego. That's the beauty. Mahatma Gandhi has said, the best way to find oneself is to lose oneself in the service of others. This is what this samskara teaches us. Then, after Nishkramana, we studied Annaprashna, which happens in the 6th or 7th month. And an idea I'd like us to remember about this is 2 kinds of tapas I've heard about eating. One tapas is, one only opens their mouth 3 times. Once in the morning, once at lunch, and once in the evening. Meaning no snacking. If one can do that, then Annaprashna is happening all the time. That's one form of tapas. Another form of tapas is one takes only 1 plate of food. So seconds, not allowed. So whatever comes onto 1 plate, that's it. This should be our relationship with food, because hunger and thirst should be treated like a disease. Only take what is needed. So this Annaprashna, and Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya in his Bhashya writes, food has 2 purposes, to nourish and to protect. If one eats too much food, it doesn't nourish then, it actually eats one. When one eats too much food, that food eats oneself. And to protect, if one doesn't eat enough food, then one is not protected. How our thinkers thought about every facet of life. Today, someone had asked me if I was planning to write a book. And I said, if I had the time, I would. Then she asked, what would you write your book on? And I said, bringing religion to us. Because the idea is to take every facet of life and infuse that with the essence of religion. Like Adi Shankaracharya has with food. This should be the relationship with food. It's not just something to do. It's a yajna, as we study in chapter 4 of Gita. Then we studied Karna Veda, and Karna Veda happens in the 5th or 7th month. This is where the ears are pierced with that gold loop. Then we studied Chudakarna, which happens in the 1st or 3rd year. And again, what is this called? A shikha. Not a rat tail, not a ponytail. And if anyone ever says that, then correct them. Otherwise, they'll keep on saying that. This is called a shikha. When we get to our upanayana, which we're going to study soon, one has 5 shikhas. It's a very interesting ceremony where they cut off all the hair, but they leave one patch here, the main shikha, and 2 patches here. One looks really interesting with 5 shikhas. I'll tell you what those 5 shikhas mean. This essentially means I have one attachment, my attachment to my guru and scriptures. I have one desire to be desireless. That's why we keep a shikha. And it said that every male in Sanatana Dharma has to have a shikha till they become sannyasis. Because that is the purpose of life is always reminded them. This is why we have this. It's a reminder for you that, hey, my purpose of life is this. It's a reminder for me that this is my purpose of life. So that is the essence behind this Chudakarna. And then we studied the first student samskara, and that was Akshara Abhyasa. And Akshara Abhyasa takes place at 5 years old. And this is where one learns the importance of spiritual knowledge, the importance of religion in one's life. Akshara Abhyasa. We now continue on to our second student samskara, and this is one of the most important samskaras. If one had to put it in order, this would be the second most important samskara that we will study and go through. And that is upanayana. Upanayana is also called the Janeyu ceremony, the thread ceremony, yajna upavita. That's what upanayana is also called. Upanayanam. Upa means near, like Upanishad. Near, and nayana means led. That's why these are called nayanam. That which leads me is my eyes, isn't it? That's why we hear Nayak or Kalnayak. Nayak is someone who leads. Kalnayak is also someone who leads, but in the negative direction. So, Upanayanam. Where is that boy and girl, and I'll get to that, led? To the guru. They're taken to the gurukula. If one is a brahmana, and no mother is going to want to hear this, if one is a brahmana, their son and or daughter is taken to the gurukula at 8 years old. If one is a kshatriya, 11 years old, and if one is a Vaishya, 12 years old. I went to the Gurukul when I was 24, and still my mother didn't want me to go to the Gurukul. Let alone 8 years old. 24, she still didn't want me to go. And why to the Guru? Because the Guru also performs Upanayanam. The Guru leads one near Bhagwan then. That's the role of the Guru. The Guru is a messenger of Bhagwan. Like Hanumanji is the envoy of Lord Rama, the Guru is the envoy of Bhagwan, of the divine. So led to the Gurukul. And when they go to the Gurukul, they're all ready as brahmacharis, and they go through the forest, and they collect dried pieces of wood. It's called samit. When we do puja, we say samit. Samit panihi. Panihi means held in one's hand. And they carried that dried wood on their forehead, on their head. And then when they get to the gurukul, they place that at the guru's feet. And this has two purposes. The first purpose is that the guru traditionally lives in the forest. Even now, Sandipani was a forest, was a jungle, before the Marriott came and the Renaissance came and so on. But that was the first item that was there. There are still snakes and monkeys and scorpions and so on at Sandipani. It's still a jungle. So the guru needs firewood to cook and to stay warm and for light. So it's very functional. Why should he do the work? Tell the shishyas to do the work. Number two is that represents one's vasanas, one's negative tendencies, one's poor habits. That I have all of these, now I'm giving them to you because you've burned yours, so you know how to, you burn mine too. You have the map, you have the instructions on how to do it, teach me. Help me be free too. So the shishya goes to the guru. The guru teaches the shishya means disciple, how to be responsible. Doesn't just teach religion, teaches how to be a global citizen. Teaches about finances, teaches about cooking, teaches about the scriptures, teaches about how to be a better person, teaches about relationships. Everything is taught in the gurukula. And that's why when Lord Krishna is known as the one having the jnana mudra, this symbol means, in Vedanta, it means taking responsibility for one's life. Most of this time, this finger is pointed outside. Your fault, the weather's fault, the county's fault, that person's fault, my parents' fault, people I don't know's fault. Right? That's why I'm unhappy. That's why I'm struggling. But the spiritual person takes that ego, that index finger, and starts turning it within. If I'm unhappy, it's my fault. If I'm unhealthy, it's my fault. If I have conflicts with others, it's my fault. And when I say fault, I really mean I'm responsible for that. So the guru teaches one to stop putting the finger outside, to start putting the finger inside. Be responsible. The guru initiates the shishya into Gayatri Mantra. And Gayatri Mantra is that, when sung, takes one beyond fear. That's the word Gayatri Mantra. Literally means, when chanted, when sung, takes one beyond fear. Out of all of the mantras in the Vedas, this one mantra encompasses all the other mantras. This is the Mula mantra. So if one is to chant one mantra and just die after that, let it be Gayatri Mantra. Because it's as if one has chanted the essence of all of the Vedas. All 100,000 mantras in one. And this mantra is saying, may my intellect be brilliant. Because as a human being, that's what it means to be a human being. So let me be a great human being, so great that I realize who I truly am. Madhusudana Saraswati has said, the gauge of one's greatness is how much they discriminate. Not on gender, not on religion, not on skin color or income, but on what is the real source of happiness and what is not the real source of happiness. Today, one of the parents had asked me, success, what is success? Because our Balavira students right now, what they want to do is make lots of money. And there's a major difference between sharpness and goodness. And we have to ask ourselves, what are we teaching our children? What is our goal in life? If my goal in life is to make money, naturally, I'm going to share the same with my children. Is that the goal of life? Or is the goal of life to be happy? Because if it is, then I should convey the same to my children. We often want our kids to be sharp. They should have 800 scores in their SATs and go to the best schools and so on and so forth. But what about the goodness? That sometimes is lost. A unique aspect of an Indian child born here, and I'm sharing this because I'm one of them. Often, we're rewarded for achievement. And most people in this room who are born here are not born with silver spoons, they're born with gold spoons. Not even silver, gold spoons. They don't have to pay for their tuition in many cases. They don't have to cook in many cases. Don't have to clean in many cases. Don't have to drive in many cases. I'm tired. Father, you drive today. Right? That kind of idea. And so insulated that when the world hits, and the world will hit, that one's rattled by that. Because there's never been rattled before. This is where our Indian parents need to reward not for achievement, rather for effort. Because nobody always wins. No one always passes. No one is always the smartest in the class. Sometimes we lose. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we go bankrupt. Whatever it is. And so if I'm only happy if I achieve, and I'm not going to achieve all the time, I'm going to get rocked by that. But if I'm rewarded for effort, I become the master of my happiness then. Because I determine my effort, not the world. Not my professor, not the bank manager, not the person who's timing my running. PBs, right? Personal best. That's what my focus should be. We have to reward effort, not achievement. Then life becomes smooth, if not extremely rocky. Let our intellect be brilliant so that what I know I can apply, I can live. That is a gauge of one's greatness. That is a gauge of success. So going forward, we should ask ourselves, are we successful? And if we are great, if we're not also great, let us change then. When one wears an upanayana, there's actually 3 strings made up of 3 strings, all wrapped around one knot. What these 3 strings represent is the way we communicate with the world. How do we communicate with the world? In 3 ways. Thought, word, and deed. That's how I communicate with the world. How I think, how I speak, and what I do. And that granthi, it's called a Brahma granthi. That knot is called Brahman. Brahma. Let my thought, word, and deed be tied around Brahman. Just like in meditation, for those who are coming, one of the steps, the first step in preparation is space. Let our worship room be the center of our house because all other activities should revolve around that. Why do we do parikrama? That may my whole life revolve around that sanctum. This is also why Lord Shiva has this trident. Let his thought, word, and deed be in his control, not out of control. So he holds this. During this ceremony too, one is given a dharma danda. This danda means I will be straightforward. I will not be shady, crooked, corrupt in my dealings. I will be straightforward. The symbolism, it's not a stick so I can hit people and play with them. Right? It's to represent that this is how I'm going to live my life. That's what people do when they become brahmacharis. They hit each other with it, They play swords with it. It's a dharma danda. Don't break the dharma. Live by that dharma. This is what it means. Our Mahatma Gandhi so beautifully has said, happiness is when one's thought, word, and deed are in harmony. If I'm thinking one thing, speaking another thing, and doing another thing, what kind of harmony will there be in my life? Swami Shantananda equates this to putting the pedal on the gas and the brake at the same time. I destroy the equipment and go nowhere. So that harmony has to be there. And in Upanayana, in this samskara, one enters into the becoming a brahmachari or a brahmacharini, male or female. And I'd mentioned, this is Portland. Brahmachari, Brahmani charati iti brahmachari. The one who's charati means walking towards Brahman, is a brahmachari. which means everyone in this room. Why else would we be here other than to move towards Brahman in one way or the other? Brahmachariti iti brahmachari. Brahma is the one with the 4 Vedas. Each of his heads represents the Vedas. He's holding them. He's the first teacher of the Vedas. The one who lives by the Vedas is the brahmachari. That can mean you and me too, if we want to. Like I said, I should have had this done when I was 8 or 11 or 12. I had it done when I was 24. Who cares? So I'm out of that age range. Now I can't get realized. Or I should live totally indulgently. It's a philosophy here that is important. This person who has this samskara is then called a dvija. Dvi means 2. Ja means born. Twice born. Even the born-again Christians, they took it from our samskaras. See, it all started here. Dvija means twice born. The first birth came from the first guru. Who is one's first guru? One's mother. Matra devo bhava. First guru. Second birth comes from the third guru, which is one's acharya. Acharya devo bhava. So Matra devo bhava, Pitra devo bhava, they're together. Then separate is Acharya Devo Bhava. So they're born again. This is the greatness of the Hindu Sanskrit language again. Dvija also means teeth. Why are teeth called dvija? Because you have your baby teeth and then you have your adult teeth. How insightful. Birds are called dvija. First birth is out of the shell. Second birth is when they learn how to fly. Dvija. Such thoughtful language. And, as I keep mentioning, this is not just for males. This is also for females. A reason why women in more modern times have become subordinate to men is because they stopped getting their upanayana, which means they stopped going to the gurukula, which means they stopped being educated. It is not their fault, it's whoever started doing this's fault. Because in Sanatana Dharma, women are worshipped most. Navratri, Matra Devo Bhava, such respect. In Kerala and other parts of the country, it's a maternal society, not a paternal society. Women are worshipped, but when misinterpretation takes place, that's what happens. So it's the misinterpretation that caused this subordination to take place because it's not supposed to happen like that. Both are considered to be equal. Both go to school. Both get educated on life. The idea of becoming a brahmachari or a brahmacharini, I'll tell you a story related to that. This is a story. 2 brahmacharis are walking by a river. And as they're walking by this river on their way to their ashram, a young girl comes skipping along with a matka on her head, a clay pot. She's going to fill up water from the riverbank. And she's happily going there. She's quite young. She bends down and she starts filling up water. And now as this matka is getting filled up, it's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And she's young, so she doesn't have a lot of experience. So she doesn't want to let go of the pot because she's going to get in trouble. So she keeps holding on to it, but it's too heavy. So she gets pulled into the water then. Now the brahmacharis see this, and she can't swim. So one of the brahmacharis jumps into the water and pulls her out. And he takes her to the shore, and she's holding on to him, saying, "Don't leave me, I'm scared." And he's like, relax, you're fine. You can breathe now. And so she's there. He gets up, and he continues walking to the ashram alongside the other brahmachari. When they get to the ashram, the brahmachari that didn't go in the water tells the brahmachari that did go in the water, "You know you're a brahmachari. You shouldn't have touched that young girl." So the brahmachari that did go in the water tells the brahmachari that didn't, "I carried that girl from the water to the shore. You carried her from the shore to the ashram." Correct? What was he thinking about the whole time? So brahmachari is not here or here or here. A brahmachari is here. A Swami is a master of the sense organs. And the only person who is a master of the sense organs is one who is happy. The one who's unhappy keeps on eating, or keeps on listening, or keeps on watching, because they're not happy, as I mentioned about the pediatricians and their conference. But if I'm happy, I don't need to eat so much. I don't need to watch so much or listen so much. So they're happy. And why are they happy? Because they're sannyasis. They've given up sorrow. They've given up ego. They've given up separation. They've given up fear. You and me can be the same. Ramana Maharishi, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, all of these people, they weren't sannyasis in the way that we think of sannyasis. Correct? We have our own preconceived notion of what a sannyasi is. Our scriptures are telling us what a sannyasi is too. Today, someone had asked about why, back in the day, were there no sannyasis? Gurus and guru patnis, Sant Vasishta, Rishi Sandipani, all of them were married. They all had kids. How come? A reason behind this is that, like I was explaining about the yugas, that our mind became more and more distracted. In earlier yugas, people didn't get distracted. So they went from brahmacharya ashrama to grihastha ashrama, and then they continued to vanaprastha ashrama, and continued on to sannyasa ashrama. They didn't stop. In distraction, after grihastha ashrama, instead of a comma, we've put a period. We've made grihastha ashrama the culmination. That's moksha, as being married is moksha, right? So our masters, and particularly Adi Shankaracharya, who formalized the sannyasa order, he systemized it. He said, for those who have the inclination to be free, to be detached, they can circumvent sannyasa, grihastha ashrama and vanaprastha ashrama and go straight to sannyasa. Because for them, it may be that they would have been distracted in grihastha ashrama and stopped there. So for me and you too, let us understand that it's the garb of the mind, not the garb of the skin, or the garb that we wear. It is how we think that makes one a sannyasi or not a sannyasi. Last thought on upanayana. When I shared this insight in Peoria, someone had two questions, and I'm sure many people in this room have the same questions. One of the questions is, what is the caste system, and why aren't Shudras allowed to have their upanayana? Because I mentioned the Brahmanas, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. So number one, what is the caste system, and how come Shudras are not allowed or don't have their upanayana? So I'll share those thoughts, and then we'll move on to the next samskara. The caste system was taught by Lord Krishna. Not by another being, it was Lord Krishna himself. And he shares this in Gita, where he says one's caste is determined by their guna and karma. Guna is the way one thinks, karma is the way one acts. So if I know that, then I decide my guna and karma. Not my blood type, or who my father is, or what profession my grandfather was. I decide the way I think, I decide the way I act. This is why in our scriptures it said that everyone is born as a Shudra. In other words, we're all born on an equal playing field, and then we can grow from there. It's no different than someone going to university and being undeclared. Right? They're not choosing where they want to go. But then someone chooses to be an engineer, or a lawyer, or a nurse, or a chef. Because of the way they think, because of the way they act, they take up a profession. Everyone goes in undeclared and then slowly picks up a profession they want. Medicine's the same way. You have to choose a specialty. You have to choose which residency you want to go into. This is not forced, but this is chosen. Now, in regards to why the caste system has been denigrated, certain people specifically the Brahmanas, whose focus in life was studying and teaching. They knew that the other groups in society may not have access to this. Not because they can't buy the text, but they may not understand this because their focus is different. Like if you ask me about blood pressure, I don't know anything about blood pressure. I need someone to tell me about that. Just like I know things that some other people don't. Knowing this, they started capitalizing on it. That you can't access this unless you revere me and give me something. And a good way to do that is, let's make it more acute, and now let's let go of these Shudras. Let's keep them out of the equation. It's no different than the Joker in The Dark Knight where he says, if you're good at something, never do it for free. That's the way the Joker thought. But if you have Batman now, he gave all of his wealth, all of his talents, his own body to serving Gotham City. Why? For the sake of serving Gotham City. Nobody even knows who he is. He's good at something, but he's doing it for free. That's what a Brahmana is. That's why a Brahmana doesn't have a job. Tulsidas used to go begging for food. He's a Brahmana. Even our acharyas, we don't have professions. Most of us don't have professions. I don't have a profession. So someone misinterpreted this and capitalized on it. So religion is not the problem. It is the interpretation of religion that is the problem. Now, in regards to what, so that's the caste system, all right? Now, Shudras, if I'm a Shudra, that means my way I think and the way I act is not towards studying the scriptures. That's not my focus in life. So it's not that they're not allowed to have their upanayanas. I've never read anywhere where it says they can't have their upanayana, but they've made themselves ineligible for it. It's like, I'm just trying to think of a gross example. If I'm really lazy, I can never get into med school. It's not that the med school didn't allow me to. I've made myself ineligible for med school. So the Shudras don't have that focus, so they would never want to be led to the gurukula, never want to be initiated into Gayatri Mantra. This caste system doesn't just exist in India, it exists everywhere. In this room, the caste system exists. Think about this lecture hall. Someone needed to think about the idea of building a school here. Someone needed to be the architect to put all the plans together. Someone needed to go to the bank for a mortgage or the government. Someone needed to lay the stage down in the bricks and the projector and so on. You have your 4 categories. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. In English, thinkers, leaders, those who are resource management, and the workers. Take away one of them. Okay, take away the architect. Do we have a lecture hall? Take away the person who doesn't have the idea, who has the idea. There's no lecture hall then? None are better or worse, they're all different. It is a misinterpretation that people point fingers to India. The caste system exists there. It exists in Japan too, and in the Czech Republic, and everywhere. Every society. And now that we know this, it is our responsibility to correct the misinterpretation of this. Swami Vimalananda had pointed this out. When a child is growing up, sometimes when they walk or run, they put their feet inside, like they're called pigeon-toed, but I'm sure there's a technical term behind that. And so a alert or vigilant parent, as soon as they see their child like that, will correct that. Because if I walk pigeon-toed, when I start to run, I'll never be able to run as fast then, because it's not physiologically natural. So I have to be vigilant to correct that. Here too, if I love Sanatana Dharma, I have to be sure to correct any misinterpretation. Maya Angelou has said, if you get, give. If you learn, teach. This is upanayana. How deep. We spent 1 hour just thinking about one samskara. That's the depth of this upanayana. One more thought, because it's so great. This string here, this divides the body in half. Animals are considered tiryag, meaning horizontal. Their genital organ stomach, heart, and head are in the same line. All are given equal priority. A human being is the exact opposite, which shows as a human being our focus should be our intellect, our heart, meaning our heart, then stomach, then pleasure. This upanayana divides my body in half. So as a brahmachari, my focus should not be pleasure and eating. My focus should be on developing my heart and my intellect. So there's a famous Sanskrit saying, Ahara nidra bhaya metunam cha samanya etat pashubi narana. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko visheshaha dharmena hina pashubi samana. Which essentially means ahara, eating, nidra, sleeping, bhaya, fear, and maitunam, which is sex. This is the same for animals and humans. But the visheshaha, the specialty of humans is dharma. Animals don't have that access to dharma. Now, if one doesn't live dharma, then one is the same as an animal. That's the saying behind this Sanskrit message. And really, it's not the same as an animal. Animals would be insulted. Because we're less efficient animals. I run slower than an animal. I can't smell as good as an animal. So let us live what this upanayana is saying at a much more microscopic level. Upanayana is the same as upavas. Ekadashi upavas. Ekadashi means 11. Upavas means near and sit. What 11? 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, and the guide behind all of these is my software, my mind. All of this should sit near the divine. That's Ekadashi Upavas. Some people just choose not to eat, but then they go see a movie, right? Or they're planning tomorrow's meal, or whatever it is. Ekadashi Upavas is like hibernation. Like bears or frogs who, when they hibernate, they only breathe and nothing else. For you and I, our hibernation should just be going to work if it's a work day, or just taking the kids to school. Just what is necessary, only do that. All other identities and energy should be directed towards, sitting towards Bhagavan. Then we will be brahmacharis every day.
If you enjoyed what you heard or want to learn more, share this episode with a friend or find us online at facebook.com/cmniagara. For those on the journey of self-development, Chinmaya Mission Niagara provides a community forum for seekers to listen, reflect, and contemplate. This podcast is produced by the Young Adults of Chinmaya Mission, an international nonprofit working to transform individuals through the knowledge of Vedanta. Until next time, inspire, love, be.